Alex Thompson lived in a world of contrasts. By day, he was a reserved young man working at a corporate office. His colleagues saw him as just another guy in a sea of professionals, wearing neatly pressed suits and attending endless meetings. But by night, when the office lights faded and the world outside grew quieter, Alex transformed into someone else entirely, someone he wasn't sure he fully understood. A crossdresser. It wasn't something he had chosen, not in the sense that one might decide on a career or a hobby. It had started as an innocent curiosity, a fleeting desire to explore a side of himself that was buried deep beneath the surface. What began as occasional attempts to wear his sister's clothes during late-night solitude had grown into something he could no longer ignore. There was a magnetic pull when he donned a dress or slipped into a pair of heels, something intoxicating about the way he felt. It was as though he shed the weight of the world, his responsibilities, and the expectations everyone placed on him as a man. At first, it was all about feeling beautiful, about feeling seen in a way he never had before. He wasn't just a guy working in a bland office, struggling to meet deadlines. As Alex became more comfortable in his own skin, he started to feel empowered. He would stand in front of the mirror and gaze at the reflection, at the image of himself dressed in clothes that felt right, like a new identity that was more real than the person others saw. But despite the growing comfort, there was always the secret. Alex's family didn't know. He kept it from them, particularly from his mother, who would never understand. His mother, Catherine, was the epitome of conservative values. A stern woman with rigid expectations, she had raised Alex with a clear set of rules and an unspoken demand to live up to certain standards. She'd always pushed him to be tough, to be the man of the house after his father had passed when Alex was just a teenager. His secret would break her. He was sure of it. Then there was Emma. She had entered Alex's life at university, a bright, beautiful woman who seemed to understand him in ways he had never imagined. Emma had a fierce intelligence and a deep curiosity about the world. She was an artist, an advocate for free expression, and for a while, Alex had thought she was the one person who might understand his cross-dressing, who might even embrace it as part of who he was. But there was always the lingering doubt in his heart. Would she accept him if she knew? Would she understand? Or would she think it was just some sort of phase? Could she love him if she knew his deepest secret? But for now, Alex had managed to keep it hidden. At work, he wore his usual corporate attire, suit and tie, every detail carefully chosen to avoid drawing attention. At home, he stuck to the routine his mother expected of him, never straying too far from the conventional life. She wanted him to lead. Only when he was alone, when no one could see, would he dare to indulge in the thrill of dressing up. One Friday evening, after another exhausting week at work, Alex found himself alone at his apartment, staring at the clothes he had carefully hidden at the back of his closet. It had been days since he had allowed himself the freedom to indulge, and the urge was growing unbearable. The soft fabrics and delicate textures beckoned to him, promising a release he desperately needed. The doorbell rang suddenly, snapping Alex out of his reverie. He glanced at the clock, 7:00 p.m. His mother, Catherine, had left the house a few hours ago to visit her sister in the city, and Emma was out for a dinner with friends. Alex's apartment was a safe haven, a place where he could be himself, at least for a few hours. But now it seemed the moment had come to an abrupt halt. He opened the door cautiously, surprised to find his younger sister, Lily, standing on the other side. "Hey, Alex." She greeted him with a warm smile. "I'm sorry to drop by unannounced. Mom said you were home. Is it a bad time?" Lily was the only person who truly knew him. She didn't understand the cross-dressing part, but she knew Alex was different. She didn't ask questions. She accepted him for who he was, even when he wasn't sure who that was. Her visits were rare, usually just to check in or bring some of their mom's leftovers, but her sudden appearance now threw Alex's plans into chaos. "No, not at all," Alex said, trying to sound casual. "Just finishing up some work." Lily stepped inside, looking around the apartment. It was cozy, with soft lighting and comfortable furniture. She immediately moved toward the living room, where they usually sat to chat. As she made herself comfortable, Alex couldn't help but feel a gnawing anxiety settle in his stomach. He needed to change back into normal clothes. He couldn't risk Lily finding out. No one could know. Not yet. Not until he was ready. "Actually, I'm just going to freshen up real quick," Alex said, his voice betraying a slight nervousness. "I'll be right back." He hurriedly moved toward the bedroom, his mind racing. The last thing he wanted was for Lily to start asking questions, or worse, to discover his secret. He knew he couldn't hide in the bathroom forever, so he made a quick decision. He'd change out of the clothes as fast as possible. But as fate would have it, just as he was pulling the dress over his head, he heard a knock on the bedroom door. "Alex?" Lily's voice called out from the other side. "Are you okay in there?" Alex froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He hadn't locked the door. He had been so careless. "Yeah, just 1 second," he shouted, panic rising in his chest. He quickly pulled the dress back over his head, but it caught on the doorknob. In that split second of vulnerability, everything seemed to stop. His mind raced. What if she walked in? What would I do? The seconds ticked by like hours as he frantically tried to make himself presentable, yanking the dress down and smoothing out the wrinkles. "Please don't open the door," he thought desperately. Lily knocked again, this time louder. "Alex, are you sure you're okay?" The door rattled again, and Alex's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep up the lie. The tension in the air was thick, and Alex could feel every muscle in his body tighten as he desperately tried to pull himself together. He had no idea how long Lily would stand on the other side of that door, asking him to open up. Each second stretched longer than the last, and all he could think about was the risk he was running. His mind raced. What if she walks in? What if she sees me? He couldn't explain this part of himself to her, not without risking her thinking he was crazy. He wasn't even sure if he fully understood why he did it, why he cross-dressed. It wasn't just the clothes or the makeup or the thrill of transformation. It was about who he became when he dressed up. The shy, reserved Alex faded into the background as the person in the mirror became someone else, someone confident, free, and strong. It was the only time he truly felt like himself. But how could Lily, or anyone, understand that? "Just a minute," Alex called out, his voice betraying a slight tremor. He could hear Lily's footsteps as she walked away from the door, but her sudden departure didn't bring the comfort he thought it would. Instead, it filled him with dread. Was she suspicious? Did she know something wasn't right? His mind swirled with questions, none of which had easy answers. Alex glanced at himself in the full-length mirror, his reflection staring back at him with a mixture of uncertainty and anticipation. The dress he wore, a soft pink satin number with lace trim, felt like a second skin. He had carefully chosen it that morning, allowing himself a brief moment of indulgence before the world outside forced him back into his mundane life. The heels, though a bit too high for comfort, added an extra layer of femininity that made him feel taller, more poised. The makeup was another part of the transformation, one that Alex had spent hours perfecting in private. The eyeshadow was subtle but effective, blending into the contour of his eyelids. His lips, painted a soft pink, felt foreign but beautiful. He had always been amazed by how different he looked when the makeup was applied, how much more confident he felt in his own skin. But now, standing there in front of the mirror, he couldn't escape the gnawing sense of guilt that had followed him for so long. What if he was fooling himself? What if this was all a lie? He had to hide this part of himself, not just from Lily, but from everyone, his mother especially. If Catherine ever found out, it would destroy her. She had always believed in traditional roles, and Alex knew she would never accept this side of him. That knowledge kept him locked in a cage of fear and shame, afraid that one day his secret would be exposed. Just as Alex finished adjusting the hem of his dress, his phone buzzed on the nightstand, the sound piercing the silence like a gunshot. It was Emma. What do I do now? Alex's heart began to race again. He had completely forgotten about her dinner plans. Would she be home soon? Should he tell her he wasn't feeling well and needed some rest? The fear of Emma discovering the truth about him was just as paralyzing as the fear of his mother. He had been with Emma for over 2 years now, and while their relationship had been mostly open and loving, there had always been an underlying tension. Would she still love him if she knew? Would she leave him? Alex stared at the phone, debating whether to pick up. The longer he hesitated, the more the tension built inside him, like a pressure cooker waiting to Hey, babe. Emma's voice came through the phone, light and cheerful, oblivious to the storm that was brewing in Alex's mind. How's your evening going? Ah, good. Alex replied quickly, trying to keep his voice steady. Just relaxing at home, you know. There was a pause on the other end, and Alex could almost hear the curiosity in Emma's voice. You're sure? You don't sound so sure. He forced a laugh, trying to sound normal. Just a little tired. It's been a long week. You should get some rest then. I'm just finishing up with dinner. Should I come over afterward? Should she come over? Alex's heart skipped a beat. What if she showed up while he was still in his cross-dressing clothes? What if she saw him like this? He could never undo the damage it would cause. No, I'm fine, Alex said quickly. I think I'll just stay in tonight. You enjoy your dinner. You sure? I can come over with some takeout if you want. We can just relax. Emma offered, her voice softening with concern. No need. I'll be all right, Alex replied, trying to sound convincing. He couldn't risk Emma finding out. He would lose her. He couldn't lose her. There was another long pause, and then Emma sighed. Okay, but if you change your mind, just text me. I will, Alex said, ending the conversation. As soon as the phone call ended, Alex slumped back against the wall, his mind spinning. He couldn't take the stress of hiding his secret any longer. But how could he come clean? How could he explain it to Emma? How could he live with himself if she rejected him? Just as he was starting to lose himself in his thoughts, the sound of the front door opening echoed down the hallway. Lily's back. Alex's heart leaped into his throat. What was going on? He had only been alone for a few minutes, but now everything was coming to a head. There was a new sense of urgency in the air, a sense that time was running out. He had to hide, quickly. He darted for the closet, scrambling to change out of the dress as fast as he could. His hands trembled as he tried to pull the dress over his head, the fabric catching and twisting. It wasn't like before, when he had all the time in the world. This time, there was a deadline. Lily had already caught him once, he couldn't let her do it again. But as he slipped the dress back into the closet and tried to fasten his pants, a voice suddenly echoed from the hallway. Alex, you sure you're okay? You're acting kind of weird. It was Lily. The tension in the room was suffocating, like a storm about to break. Alex's heart raced as he scrambled to regain control of the situation. His pulse was erratic, his breath shallow, every muscle in his body tight with fear. He had barely managed to hide the dress and slip into his regular clothes when Lily's voice floated through the hallway, cutting through the air like a blade. Alex, you sure you're okay? You're acting kind of weird. There it was. The question he dreaded the most. The one that would unravel everything if he wasn't careful. His mind went blank for a moment, the weight of the lie hanging heavy on his chest. He knew he couldn't risk revealing his secret now, not with the stakes this high, not with Lily so close to the truth. He forced himself to stand up straighter, to take control of his voice, to sound normal. He didn't have much time. Yeah, just a bit tired, Alex called out, trying to sound casual. He hoped his voice wasn't shaking. There was a brief silence before Lily responded, and Alex felt his stomach drop with each passing second. Well, you don't look tired, she said, her tone laced with curiosity. Are you sure you're all right? You've been acting strange lately. Strange. That was it. the word that made Alex's stomach churn. He couldn't let Lily catch onto his nervousness. She would never understand why he did what he did, why he felt the need to cross-dress. "Yeah, I'm fine," Alex repeated, trying to sound more convincing. "I'm just not in the mood for anything tonight, that's all." But Lily wasn't convinced. The sound of her footsteps grew louder as she walked toward his bedroom. Alex's mind raced, scrambling for a plan. He couldn't let her come in here. He couldn't let her see what was hidden in his closet. "Lily, I told you, I'm fine," Alex said, his voice more firm this time. There was a long pause, then Lily's voice returned, softer this time. "Okay, but if something's going on, you know you can talk to me, right?" Alex froze. Her words hit him like a ton of bricks. Talk to me. How could he talk to her about this? How could he explain that he didn't just enjoy wearing women's clothes, but that it was a part of who he was? How could he tell her that, at times, he felt more comfortable in dresses and heels than in his own? "Thanks." There was an awkward silence that stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. Finally, Lily sighed. "All right, I'll leave you to it," she said, the door creaking as she began to walk away. But then, just as Alex thought he was out of the woods, he heard a sound that froze him in his tracks. A knock at the door to the closet. Alex's eyes widened in horror as the blood drained from his face. No, it couldn't be. How had she found it? How had she known where to look? He had been so careful, so meticulous. There was no way Lily could have seen anything nothing out of place. But here it was, the moment he had feared, the moment his world was about to crumble. His hand shook as he gripped the edge of the bed, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea what to do. He couldn't hide the truth any longer, but he wasn't ready to face it either. The knock echoed again, louder this time. "Alex," he swallowed hard, his mouth dry. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He was frozen in place, paralyzed by his own fear. "Alex, open the door. I need to talk to you." Lily's voice was gentle but insistent. She wasn't angry, not yet, but he knew that could change. She had caught him, she had found him out. And now he would have to face the consequences. He felt trapped. The walls were closing in around him. His secret was no longer a secret. Slowly, with trembling hands, Alex made his way toward the door. He didn't know what to expect when he opened it. Would Lily be angry? Would she be disgusted? Would she leave him, like so many others before her? He could hear her breathing outside the door, her footsteps shifting as if she, too, was unsure of what was to come. Finally, Alex took a deep breath and opened the door. His heart thudded in his chest as he looked at Lily. She was standing in the doorway, her eyes locked onto his. There was no going back now. Lily didn't speak right away. She just stood there, her gaze flicking between Alex and the closet door. Her expression was unreadable, and it made Alex's stomach twist. For a moment, the two of them just stood there in silence, both of them processing what had just happened. Then Lily took a step forward, her voice softer now. "Alex," she said, her tone filled with concern, "I don't know what's going on, but you don't have to hide it from me. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. You don't have to go through this alone." Alex's chest tightened, and the tears he had been holding back finally started to spill. He had never expected this. He had expected anger, rejection, but instead, Lily's voice was filled with compassion, and it shattered the walls he had built around himself. You're not mad?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. Lily shook her head. "No, I'm not mad, Alex. I'm worried. You've been carrying this burden for so long, and I can't imagine how much pain it's caused you. But you don't have to keep it a secret anymore." But just as Alex felt a weight lifting off his shoulders, the door behind him creaked open. The familiar, sharp voice of his mother rang through the room. "Alex, what is going on here?" Catherine's voice was full of suspicion and anger. "Why is there a woman's dress on the floor?" Alex's heart stopped. No. His mother had found him too. His world was collapsing faster than he could catch his breath. The tension in the room was suffocating. Alex stood frozen, his body rigid with shock and fear as his mother, Catherine, stood in the doorway. The accusing look in her eyes pierced through him like an icy wind. His breath was shallow, each one a struggle as he tried to process what was happening. He had feared this moment for so long, and now it had arrived in the most brutal way imaginable. "Alex," Catherine's voice rang out again, sharp and demanding. "What is this? Why are you dressed like that?" Her eyes flicked over him, taking in the high heels, the soft fabric of the dress, the makeup that he hadn't had time to completely remove. For a moment, Alex couldn't speak. His mind was reeling, trying to find a way out of this. But there was no escape, no way to hide. His secret, the one he had buried so deep, was now exposed for the world to see. Lily stood beside him, her expression a mixture of shock and confusion. Alex could feel her eyes on him, could feel the weight of her unspoken questions. It was as though everything had shifted in an instant. What had once been a secret he could protect was now out in the open, and there was no turning back. "I can explain, Mom," Alex stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. He had no idea how to start, no idea what to say. But Catherine didn't wait for an explanation. Her gaze hardened, her face a mask. "And Lily, what does she think of this?" Lily, who had been standing silently beside him, now stepped forward. "Mrs. Carson, please. Let's just talk about this," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Alex is still the same person. This doesn't change who he is. It's just something that he's been dealing with." Catherine shot Lily a cold look, her mouth tightening into a thin line. "You don't understand, Lily. This is wrong. This isn't something that's just normal. This is a problem. And I won't sit back and let it happen." Alex felt his heart racing as he glanced between his mother and Lily. The situation was slipping through his fingers, spiraling out of control. The two people who meant the most to him, his mother and Lily, were on opposite sides, and he was caught in the middle. "Mom, please," Alex pleaded, his voice trembling. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I didn't want anyone to know. But this is me. This is who I am." Catherine's face twisted with a mix of confusion and frustration. "This isn't you, Alex. This is some phase, a mistake. You need help. You need to fix this before it gets worse." The words hit Alex like a slap to the face. He had heard them before, from people who didn't understand, from people who couldn't see past the surface. His own mother, the person who had always been there for him, now looked at him like he was some kind of stranger. But Lily wasn't backing down. She stood by his side, her presence a small but powerful support in the storm of emotions raging around them. "Mrs. Carson, I understand this is hard to accept," Lily said softly, "but Alex needs your support, not your judgment." The silence that followed was thick with tension. Catherine's eyes flicked between them, narrowing with suspicion. "You're just enabling him," she spat, her words laced with venom. "You're making it worse. I don't know what you've done to him, Lily, but I won't stand for it." The words stung. The anger in Catherine's voice was almost palpable, and Alex could feel the weight of her disapproval pressing down on him. He had never seen her so angry before, never felt such an overwhelming sense of shame. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Someone else was coming. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Who else could it be? Was the whole world about to find out? Lily turned toward the sound, her face a mix of concern and confusion. "Who's there?" she called out. The door to the hallway swung open, revealing Alex's father, James. He stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he took in the scene before him. His eyes briefly flicked from Alex to Catherine and then to Lily, before settling back on Alex. "Alex," James said, his voice calm but heavy with disappointment. "What's going on here?" Alex felt his stomach twist into knots. His father's gaze was cold, distant, like he had already made up his mind about him. The last thing Alex needed was for his father to add to the tension. Dad, I can explain," Alex began, but the words felt hollow in his mouth. Catherine's voice cut through the room like a blade. "He's been hiding this from us, James. Dressing up like a woman. We need to do something about it. This can't keep happening." James didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stepped further into the room, his eyes never leaving Alex. He looked like he was trying to process the situation, but Alex could see the judgment in his gaze, the disappointment. Lily, who had been holding her ground, now seemed to shrink back as though unsure of how to navigate the growing hostility. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, James spoke again. "We need to have a serious talk, Alex. This is bigger than just you. We have to figure out what this means for our family." The weight of his words crushed down on Alex. He felt his world crumbling, the ground slipping away beneath him. His family, the people who had always been his support system, were now looking at him like he was some sort of stranger. And yet, through it all, there was Lily standing by him, unwavering, even when everything else seemed to be falling apart. Alex turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear, uncertainty, and gratitude. But just as he opened his mouth to speak, the doorbell rang. The sudden sound was jarring. Who could it be? More people to see his secret exposed? Or was it a sign that things were about to take an even darker turn? The screen fades to black, leaving Alex standing in the eye of the storm. His heart is in his throat, the weight of his family's judgment hanging heavy in the air. The unresolved tension is palpable, the uncertainty hanging over him like a dark cloud. Will Alex survive this confrontation with his family? What will they do next? What do you think will happen to Alex now? Will his family accept him for who he truly is, or will they try to change him? Will Lily's support be enough to help him navigate this storm? Leave your thoughts and predictions in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter in Alex's journey.